What's up, people? Out here in the garage. Figured kick it out here for a minute. Trying to find some shit out here. I've had the bike on that trickle charger. The battery wasn't too strong last time I tried to start it. See, I had that trickle charger plugged in there. And then it comes over here and it plugs in. Right there, goes up under the seat to the battery. Helps keep it topped off. That engine, it's got so much compression in it. You got to push those pressure relief valves or you'll tear the jack shaft up. Mess your starter up, but this keeps it topped off. Once she's warm and going, she's fine. But when she's cold, she's hard to start. So I wanted to top that off. And I'm still looking for my keys. I got an extra set, but I need to find my original set of keys to the bike, because it's got my key. It's not really a key. It's what I use to open the gas tank. See, the gas tank's got it's got two little holes right there that you twist, and it fits in there to open up my gas whenever I'm getting gas and stuff. But I'm almost positive it's out here somewhere. The problem is things are such a mess out here. So I figured I'd take you guys out here with me. Went over to Shane's last night. Had to take him down into North St. Louis last night. He asked me if I'd come over and give him a ride over there and back, and wasn't really feeling like it, but he's been a friend since 1982. And when it comes to my wife and the people I call brothers and my children and stuff, I don't just go half in, I go all in. It's just the way I do things. Mr. Misunderstood. But yeah, I gotta find these keys that drive me nuts. Man, Nate went out tonight. He said they're having a big party over at Greg's. I mean, I'm 57 years old, you know. I'd rather be here with my wife than out at a party somewhere. Everybody, all the drunks are gonna be out tonight. And I haven't, you know, the kids, we raised 4 kids, so our Halloweens was taking kids trick-or-treating and doing the stuff you're supposed to do as a parent. And so I'm kind of out of practice on them Halloween parties and stuff. And Amy, she'd just soon be home too. She likes those video games. I like those video games. See, I said before in a video, You know, just because you're the parent don't always mean you're right. And when you're wrong, you should say so. And that's a good example of that. Uh, I used to come home and I'd tell my kids, get off them stupid video games and get a life. And they grew up, they moved out, and a buddy of mine used to do tattoos all over the country. People would fly him different states to do tats. And he'd come by, he'd stay here whenever he's in St. Louis, he'd stay with me and Amy. He was state raised with me. We were at Chaddock together. But he come by and I walked in one day and he's got a controller and he's looking at the TV, and I looked at the TV and I was watching him and I said, what is that? And he said, oh, that's Grand Theft Auto 5. I said, it's a video game? He said, yeah. Well, I hadn't played a video game. I had the original Atari when I was a kid. And I think, God, the last time I played a video game was maybe once or twice with the kids back when they had a Nintendo 64. And I was just like blown away at the graphics and everything else. So me and him, I got an Xbox, and me and him started playing. Well, he had a stroke. And we found out that it's okay to use macros. I think that's what my son said they were called. My son got this controller for him and set up macros so he could play one-handed. And we played for a while together, and then unfortunately he passed away. And so here I am. Now I'm into these video games, and I don't have anybody to play with. And I met this guy Gabriel and Connor, and you know, they taught me how to play. They're in their mid-20s, and they were patient enough to teach this old man how to play. And you know, I'll never be as fast or as good as these younger people. I mean, I was raising 4 kids. These people were born with a controller in their hand. You know, they're better than I'll ever be. And my reflexes are slowing down, but I have a good time playing. It's fun. The kids, a couple Christmas ago, they come home for Christmas, and I said, I'm sorry. I told all of them, I said, I'm sorry. They said, for what, Dad? I said, for yelling at you about the video games all the time. I said, they're actually pretty cool, you know. And my one son, Seth, he was in the top, let's see if I can remember how he said it, the top 100 on 3v3, player versus player on Gears of War. He was in the top 100, and he'd get mad because if the internet connection wasn't good, he'd be flipping out. And I'm like, dude, it's just a game, you know. And he's like, Dad, I'm in the top 100. Our 3v3 team is. Well, I didn't know that was something extraordinary, you know. And Gabriel told me, I told him, you know, I said, my son's in the top 100 in some Gears of War game. He goes, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And he goes, that's insane, dude. And I go, what, is it good? And he goes, yeah. And I said, why? And he goes, there's like millions of people that play that game. He said, top 100's damn good. And then I had to apologize to Seth for that. It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that it was, you know, a big deal that you were that good. But I'm learning. But when I'm wrong, I admit it. I think once you close your mind off and you're not capable of admitting that you're wrong, or, you know, you just stop learning at that point. You can never grow. if you close your mind off. And, you know, you get stuck in your views, beliefs. Now, I'm stuck in my views and beliefs, but if there have been people, certain things that have told me, you know, their views, their beliefs, and there has been times in my life that my beliefs have changed on some things. But I mean, the only thing that I know my beliefs won't change on is like my religion. But you know, there's times that I've changed things that I was pretty set in because somebody showed me that their way was better or that my thinking was wrong. And I think that's important because once you stop being able to do that, you can't change, you can't grow. And I think everybody, no matter how good or bad they are, should always be trying to become a better human being and improve themselves, you know. Man, this is driving me nuts. I want that damn keys. Mr. Misunderstood. I don't know. I do not know. Yeah, these license plates, man. It's crazy. This is from 2001, or when we moved out to Arizona. Those were our Illinois tags we went out there on. Or no, they're not. That was the car that I had when me and Amy got together. That's our tags when we went out there. And then that's our Arizona tags right there. And then this is my Missouri tag when I first got back. And then this here, the scale. It's a wooden seat to a chair. A man that was like a father to me, Gary Ralph Hill was his name. He drew that on there. It's a gal at a hot dog stand. But he drew that on there, and I kept it. Gary was like a father to me. He was a fool like me. He didn't live his life the way he should have. And he ended up getting liver cancer. And I took him to the hospital in Tucson. I took him down to Keno. Keno was where, you know, us poor folks go. And I took him down there, and he didn't have any insurance. And Gary, he was Vietnam generation, you know. He had 10, 12 years on me. But they didn't treat him. He didn't have no insurance. And so me and Amy, he moved in with me and Amy, and I took care of him the last 18 months of his life. He was a pretty stout dude, you know, when I met him. But the cancer spread. It was in his brain. It was everywhere. I watched a 230-something pound man go down to about 115, 120 pounds. We were giving him Ensure, trying to get anything in him that we could. And then he got incontinent at the end. I was having to bathe him. And I'm not complaining about that. I'd do it again if I had to. I loved Gary like a father. And I learned a lot from Gary. But I did a video. It's gone now, but it was called, you know, I Was Almost a Perfect Friend Once. That last day, I yelled at him. You know, he was sitting there on that couch with urine. He had pissed, and And I said, hey, Gary, why don't you come on? We'll get you in the bathroom, get you cleaned up. I got some clean clothes in there for you. And he yelled at me and said, he wanted to drink his coffee. And what I was thinking in my head is, hey, man, my kid's got to sit there on that couch. You got piss in your pants, And what I should have been thinking is, hey, Mark, the dude's got tumors in his brain. His liver has cancer. His body's becoming toxic. And he's not thinking right. But I snapped at him, and then I went to the bathroom to calm down. And whenever I came out of the bathroom, whenever I was taking a shower, I was like, man, you need to apologize to that man. And I got out, dried off, got some clothes on, and I walked out of the bedroom, and I said, hey, Gary. And just as I said that, he went into convulsions and had to call 911, and then the doctor come in. They said, get everybody together, And it was me and Mickey and Paula, my wife Amy, and Crazy Dave. He was a medic in Vietnam, and doctor gave us a chance to say our goodbyes, and he come in, shot a bunch of morphine up into that IV, and when he left the room, Dave said, man, this is enough morphine to put anybody down. And he said in about a minute or two here, he'll take his last breath, and that's exactly what happened. And at that point, it was the merciful thing to do. But that man, he didn't get no pain meds, nothing. And that's the only time, But he didn't complain. He didn't. I know, Gary was very special to me. I loved him like a father, and I learned a lot from him. He's the one that talked me down, too, when I got a hold of that guy that threatened to unalive my wife and children. And he talked me down, thank God. But I miss him all the time. I really do. He didn't I had one of my brothers, Tom. The people that used to watch my old channel, Tom's the one that got deported. They deported him back to Germany. But Gary didn't like Tom. Tom come out, he asked me if he'd come out, said he needed to get his mind right. And he brought this gal with him and his dog. And I'm raising 4 children. I got a wife. And the whole time, it's like 8 months Tom was there with his old lady and the dog, and I'm feeding all of them. He's smoking my cigarettes. And I got him 2 jobs, and both jobs halfway through the day, he said, I don't know how you do this. I can't do this. He said, it's too hot. And he walked off the job. Both jobs I got him. And I said, whenever I got home, I said, Tom, I don't do it because I want to. I do it because I have 4 children, and my wife depended on me to do it. Bills got to be paid. And, when we were younger, we were gypsies. We didn't have no responsibility, but I ended up snapping on him one day. It was like enough's enough. And I think that's why Gary didn't like Tom. Gary saw it as Tom was taking advantage of the situation. But Tom got the heck knocked out of him. And whenever I got back, he was in federal prison. And I went up to prison and talked to him. And, we're good. But I said, man, I'm sorry for knocking you around like that. And he said, no, man, I'm sorry. I lived there 8 months with my old lady and a dog and didn't give you a dime. It wasn't that he wasn't giving me nothing. It's that, Arizona was a right to work state. I was working as a carpenter out there at one time, and I worked there 2 years. I got up to like $9 an hour working as a carpenter, framing the houses and setting trusses. And it was hard to make a living out there when you're in the trades. And then I finally got my own thing going, doing skirtings and awnings on manufactured homes after they'd set them. But yeah, Gary told me after I kicked Tom out, Gary said, he said, because what happened was Amy come home and she said, I got a flat tire. I said, where? And she said, it's down the street about a quarter mile. I said, okay, I'll go down and change the tire. And I said, hey, Tom, you want to go with me? He said no, and I was fine with that. Well, I got down there and I started changing the tire, and I started thinking about, he's been there 8 months. I've gotten him 2 jobs, and he made me look like a fool and walked off both jobs. I'm supporting him, his old lady, and feeding his dog too. And by the time I was heading back, I decided me and Tom, we were going to fight. We were going to move some earth. And I got back, and Tom wasn't there. He went down to the horse park down the street. And I flipped out. I told everybody, get out of the damn house. I mean, the kids, the only person that stayed in the house was Amy. Because Amy's, I ain't afraid of you. She knows I ain't going to do nothing to her. And everybody left outside, and Gary said that when Tom come back, he walked up to, Gary used to roll his own Bugler cigarettes, and Tom come walking up to him and said, hey, Gary, let me get one of them Buglers. And Gary said, they're inside, go get them. And Gary knew I was in there pacing back and forth with the butcher knife. I was in a rage. I heard somebody beating on the door, and he goes, it's me, let me in, I need a cigarette. And I opened the door, grabbed him by the hair, drug him in, just knocked him all over the house. I said, you gotta go. He goes, give me 15 minutes. I said, you ain't got 15 seconds, man. And then the next day, after I kicked him and his old lady and the dog, I felt bad, you know. I always feel bad. And I mean, 8 months though, you're a grown man. At that time, he was in his late 30s. So was I. You're a grown man. And you bring your old lady with you and your dog. And I got 4 kids and a wife, and I'm supporting all them. And then I had to support you, your dog, and your old lady for 8 months on top of what I was supporting, making house payments and everything else. Yeah, he was definitely taking advantage of the situation. I love Tom, but the brother was tripping. But then again, he did say, you know, can I come out there and get my mind right? So I knew his mind wasn't right when he was coming out, but Tommy's mind, ain't none of our minds been totally right. That's for darn sure. But I'm going to get off here. I got to find this key. And that reminds me, too, I need to get a hold of, oh, God, Italian Bushcraft. I like his channel, and I got to resubscribe to everybody. I got Mitch Smiley today. I need to resubscribe to Whack Deuce, Big Max, Louis Max, Jen Maganta, Cholo Trucker. There's a whole bunch of them I got to resubscribe to. But much love to all of you, and there's something else I was going to say about Gary. Can't remember what it was. Oh, yeah, Gary, he had 2 daughters, and Gary got a big inheritance, or not inheritance, big settlement, and him and Mickey took off to Hawaii and partied for years. But he neglected his daughters, and he knew that. And when he slowed down in life, he tried to, you know, reestablish a relationship with these daughters. And they didn't give him another chance. Uh, and that's worked out fine for me. I got a man that was like a father to me, but it always hurt him to the very end that he blew his chance to be part of his daughter's lives. And, and he owned it. He acknowledged the fact that it was his fault and only his fault. But, when you're partying, doing all that crazy shit, that's something you need to think about too, is you've got children that are looking up to you, watching you. You're supposed to be their role model, and when you're not a part of their lives, what's the saying? Anybody can make a baby, it takes a man to raise one. Now, I disagree with the fact, I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not going to get into all that. But, just something to think about is don't neglect your children. Don't take them for granted. And don't think you can crap all over them and that they're going to just accept you back into their lives, because sometimes they don't. And after Gary died, I'm very good at finding people. And I knew their names, so it would have been nothing to find them. But I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, Mark, I don't have the right to do that to them. They chose what they chose for a reason. And it's not right for me to go in stirring up things that are not good memories for them. I felt that would be I wanted to do it for Gary, just to let them know how much he did love them. He talked about them all the time. And that was his big regret in life. But I felt like I didn't have the right to go in and talk about those things with those young ladies that they obviously hurt over. It's not my place to open up old scars. They obviously moved on with their life, and I just didn't want to go in kicking up dust and disturbing that. Hopefully I made the right decision. I know because I loved Gary, I wanted to. But see, that's the other thing about life. You can't just think of yourself all the time. Sometimes you gotta think about other people's feelings. The universe don't revolve around none of us. But many blessings to all of you.